Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone to my podcast. My name is Katie Miranda El Ali, and today I am here with my friend Estela Rodriguez-Jebril. Estela is a licensed clinical therapist and sex coach, and she is married with 3 adult kids. So welcome to the podcast, Estela.
Thank you for inviting me, Katie. It's really an honor to be here talking to you. I love just having conversations that will, inshallah, empower and inspire others.
Inshallah. So Estela, why don't you start by telling people a little bit about what you do?
So I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I've been practicing that for over 15 years. I'm also a sex coach. And what I do is I help busy, high-achieving women get fully aligned with their feminine, sensual energy so that they can step into their leadership potential. As women, we wear many hats. We are moms, we are wives, we are professionals, and we're also just women, right? So learning how to tap into our sensual, feminine energy is so important to be able to step into our highest level of leadership as women so that we can really live from a place of confidence. So I help women live from a place of confidence so that they can avoid living in the past. We've all experienced some type of trauma in life, and it's so important to be able to not live in the past and to refuse to live in victimhood so that, inshallah, we can really be courageous problem solvers as women.
I love what you said about not living in victimhood, because I think that is one of the central values of my life. And I think for a time I did live in victimhood. And once I realized I don't have to do that, then it's like, wow, a whole new world just opened up. What I'd like to talk to you about today is some challenges that you faced in the past and how you overcame them. And the reason I want to do this is because this podcast is about inspiring people who've been through painful times and experiences and how they can turn those experiences around. And I want to interview as many people as I can to hear about how they turn their painful times and experiences around to achieve success or happiness or love or etc. So I'll give you a choice, Stella. We can start out by talking about one of these painful experiences in your past, or if you want, you can just talk a little bit more, because I'm interested in hearing both of these things. So maybe we can do both. I'm interested in hearing how you help people get out of the state of victimhood. And if you want to talk about how that relates to your practice or your personal life or something, just go ahead.
Yeah, it's really important and powerful and passionate for me because for most of my life, I lived in victimhood. And it's a very painful place to live from. And when you live from victimhood, you create this toxicity in your life that just really overcomes everything. And so one of the things that I do is, I help other women learn from my experiences. I've been married for 32 years.
SubhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful.
Alhamdulillah.
It is my second marriage. And in my 32 years of marriage, and I'm not proud of this, I filed for divorce 4 times.
Wow.
I literally went through all the steps to divorce my husband because of the state that I was in. And when I think about it now, well, first of all, I'm so grateful that I did go through that process, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be where I am today and I wouldn't be able to support women. But when I also think about it, I just realize how much time, energy, resources, I wasted. And it hurts. I mean, it hurts. I have to humble myself and recognize that, everything happens for a reason. And the lessons that I learned, are priceless. To trust other people, to know that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us as Muslims, that through hardship there is ease. Because if we don't truly believe that, we get stuck in the hardship. We get embedded in it. And that's what I did for most of my life. I I didn't know. And what's really interesting about me is that I was helping others, really achieve things in their lives. And I wasn't able to do that for myself for so many years because I was just really just stuck in that place of feeling sorry for myself, thinking that these things that happened to me, you know, took away my freedom or took away my courage or took away my ability to, hit the restart button. Like we can hit the restart button as soon as we open our eyes in the morning. And what I would do is I would literally wake up in the morning and I would just immediately go into that state of anger, wanting to be vengeful, wanting to make, for example, my husband pay for things that he had done to hurt me. And it was just this vicious circle, and it not only affected my marriage, it affected the way I was parenting my children. It affected the way that, I was even navigating through the things that I was passionate about. I hit this place where I was really in a dark place, mm-hmm. for, way too many years. So anyone that is listening to this and is feeling that pain of why me? Why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to suffer like this? What is so important to be able to recognize is that there is a way to shift your mindset. Our mind, there's so much research now that shows that neuroplasticity is real. Like, for so long we would hear, you can't teach an old dog a new trick, right? And I bought into that. The older I got, I was like, I'm just stuck in being, this person that will never feel complete. And that is false.
So what changed? How did you eventually get yourself out of a victimhood mentality and, stop being mad at your husband and wanting revenge? And like, what happened? What changed? How did you get out of that?
I can't really pinpoint what happened because in the process of all that, I was looking for solutions. I was reaching out for help, but because I was so fixated in my, my victimhood, I wasn't really taking in the solutions. And I honestly can say that it was truly just a blessing from Allah that I came to this realization that I was going to throw away the most meaningful thing that I had ever invested in, which was my marriage. I remember also feeling this shame, like I didn't deserve it. But what really helped me was to open up and become more vulnerable. One thing I wasn't doing is I wasn't really sharing where my pain was rooted with the person that I was trying to, resolve things with, which was my husband. Instead, I was like running away. And when I was able to recognize that whatever judgment, maybe I wouldn't even have any judgment, whatever criticism, maybe the criticism wasn't, anything that really defined who I was. When I was able to recognize that didn't really matter in my mind, I felt safe. It was like this level of safeness that elevated within me that it's okay. I don't have to be perfect. So it was connected to this aspect of perfectionism that, I had to meet some certain expectations, and I knew within me that I wasn't perfect. So therefore I was also very much, in that place of self-sabotage, self-deprecating comments and beating myself up, right?
So it was like a lack of confidence in yourself that was sabotaging your marriage?
It was really, and now it sounds so simple and basic, and usually things are, but what I didn't do is I didn't truly let in the solutions that were right there,
And what were those solutions, and where were they? Like, what were they and where were they?
The solutions were as simple as really expressing gratitude. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had everything that I could possibly need in my life, but there was this level of ingratitude within me. So being able to just humble myself and express the gratitude that we hear about from my heart, cleansing my heart and forgiving others and forgiving myself just for the sake of forgiveness and not expecting anything in return.
Wow, that is very simple, but at the same time, if that is offered up as a solution, I think, a lot of people when they're so caught up in their own misery, they would just dismiss that as like, oh, that's too simple. My life is too complicated for that.
And that's exactly where I was,
Uh-huh.
making, really believing that those simple solutions didn't apply to me because my misery is so much more complex than anybody else's. And when in fact, it was that simple. It was that simple. And I can tell you, like, for the past literally 6 years, my life has been this just bliss. I can honestly say this bliss. Have I had challenges? Yes, absolutely. Still have challenges. My father passed away. My sister and I still have a strained relationship. I've had situations with my in-laws, but my ability to not take things personally and not get into those power struggles have taught me to, let go and release of any of those circumstances and situations that will pull me back into that victimhood.
Mm. And that is just expressing gratitude, like to your husband, to Allah.
Expressing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost.
Uh,
And expressing gratitude for, yes, towards my husband, acknowledging, like, acknowledgement sounds so simple, right? Let's acknowledge each other. Oh, I appreciate you. Oh, what you're doing is helpful. But from a place of genuineness and a place of gratitude, it completely, shifts the dynamics and the flow, and we're energetic beings, right? We're energetic beings. And when we can't allow ourselves to shift our mindset, when we don't allow ourselves to shift, the emotions, then it's pain. It's painful. But when we trust and we express that gratitude every day, one of the practices that I started doing was before even getting out of bed, just using my fingers to say 10 things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that I'm in my bed and it's comfortable. I'm grateful for my pillow. I'm
yeah.
grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I'm going to get up and have a cup of coffee. I'm grateful that I can work from my home. I'm grateful that I can see, that I can hear. I'm grateful that I don't have any injuries and I'm grateful I'm healthy. And even if it's the same list that you express every day, but when you express it genuinely, and this is one of the reasons why as Muslims, we know that Fajr is such a powerful time, right? And Tahajjud, starting the practice of Tahajjud when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, at the lowest heaven, ready to hear our du'as. Those are truly impactful and powerful times that when we use them strategically, they cleanse our heart and they take us to that place of releasing literally what is not serving us and being able to take in the mercy. And, once again, it sounds so simple, right? But getting yourself to that place of practicing it consistently is what allows you to really experience the miracles of that change.
Yeah, that's amazing what you said about expressing gratitude for the simple things like your pillow and your health. That's something that I go and do whenever like I'm in a really, really bad mood, like a really crappy mood. I have the tasbih. I think you have some of my tasbih.
Yes, I do. They're beautiful.
Yeah, and I go through all of those 99 beads and I list, I say out loud like 99 things that I'm grateful for in my life. And it can be a challenge coming up with 99 things, and
Yeah.
not repeating them, you know. But you sure feel a heck of a lot better after you do that.
Yes. And we don't want to wait until we're in a tough spot, right? We
Yeah.
don't want to wait. We want to cultivate the consistency of the ease of creating that habit so that when we are in a tough place, then we don't have to work so much on releasing like the emotions that are hard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, be grateful, when things are going well, right? Be grateful when things are going well. So to cultivate that practice when you don't even really need it, or you feel like you don't need it, first of all, it takes intention, right? You have to make the intention to not say, okay, well, I'll wait, tomorrow.
Yeah. So you transformed your marriage just by simply learning how to be grateful and stepping outside of being a victim. That's amazing and wonderful. Do you teach that to your clients? And do you ever struggle with getting them to realize like how simple it is?
I do teach it to my clients, and at first, yes, they don't believe it will be something that they can do. They feel like their situation is so much more complicated. How can something so simple as just being grateful? And of course, they always come back and say, but I am grateful, and I say I'm grateful, which we do. But if there's a big difference with just saying, oh, I'm grateful for this, and then really pausing and stepping back and reflecting on the gratitude from a place of intention, right? From a place of intention. So that's where we talk about the energy, right? Like the energy that we bring forth, and what is it that we want to receive? What is it that we want to bring into a situation to get really connected with our own vibrational level? And in the case, I work a lot with couples now, and to really understand each other's vibration. There's so many ways to, measure, what our needs are. But what's so important is to be able to really understand how we can navigate through our own, energy, and switch off the vibration, because you can be in a dark place and be okay. A lot of creativity comes from being in a state of depression or a state of anxiety, but you have to understand the gift that comes with it so you don't fall into that victimhood mentality.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I know I've struggled a lot with the darkness in my life, and I think probably what you might call a low vibration, which I don't know if that means like somebody who has like a higher level of neuroticism. Is that what it means? Like a low vibration? Is it the same thing?
I mean, what I think it means is that you just have access to a different, to your access to that energy source is different. And what happens is in life, we put so many labels on things, right? We put in one, which is one of the reasons. I mean, I still consider myself a therapist. I am a therapist. I still maintain my license, but I really stay away from diagnosing people and putting labels on people, because we're all unique. And there's a gift in every aspect of our state. And what we want to be able to recognize is how can you nurture that? How can you nurture that to receive what you're meant to receive from it? So it's really about shifting completely, your perspective and your outlook on what can come out of it, as opposed to just being in that state, if that makes sense.
So the reason I mentioned like neuroticism, I was thinking of the 5 personality traits. And I realized you said you don't like to label people. So what I'm wondering is like what is your interpretation of somebody with like a lower vibrational state? What does that actually mean?
In my opinion, what that means is that there's an opportunity to receive, and that individual isn't aware, doesn't have the awareness to know how to ask for what they want. And because when we receive, then we elevate the compassion, we elevate the empathy, we elevate the love, right? We elevate the love. But if you can't ask for it, then, you're gonna feel as if, you don't have anything to offer. You don't have anything to give. This is why, of course, so much of depression results in, suicide and suicidal thoughts, right? But when you can when we as human beings can recognize that as an opportunity, then we will also not shun people, because so many times it makes us uncomfortable to be around people that have that vibrational state, right? So
Mhm.
we cause and create isolation.
And so what do you mean by like that vibrational state? Is that just like a negative
Whoa.
attitude?
So the low vibrational state, it's not even about it being a negative attitude. It's just being a vibrational state that is um, almost at a standstill, right? So if something's at a standstill, what does it need to create that momentum or that inertia or that movement to elevate or to um, be productive or to take the action that is necessary to get out of bed or to get in the shower or to get yourself out the door, right?
So a low vibrational state would kind of um, express itself as somebody who feels stuck.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good description. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And you're helping people get out of that.
That's always my goal. Yes,
Yeah.
that is always my goal. And that's when I'm just honored to be working. Like right now, I have some clients that they're just amazing. And I get emotional because it's so powerful when you see that transformation.
Mhm.
Um, I'm working with a lot of young people right now too. A lot of people in their 20s, and it's interesting how we're so advanced in life. We have so much access, right? Technology, everything, but the state of the human being doesn't change a whole lot. Even generation after generation, no matter what. I mean, yes, of course, each generation is different, but the need of love, the need of compassion, the need of understanding, the need of empathy, it's always the same. It's
Mhm.
always the same. And right now I'm working with so many young people that are so confused, and what I love about it is that it reminds me of my youth, and it reminds me of the things that I didn't have access to, and now I get to be that resource for them. And because of COVID, so many platforms have come into existence so that you don't have to get in your car and you don't have to drive to a session. You can do it online, right? Like, who would think that that would be productive, right? And I've been doing this throughout COVID, and it's just been so interesting and so powerful to see the transformations. And it's specifically with young people, which we know that if you utilize your youth, I mean, it's amazing what you can do, right? I know when I was young, I felt invincible, right? So if you have access to a good mental state, overall emotional well-being, and you have youth on your side, then subhanallah, it's amazing how things can really shift, not only for the individual, but if this is a perpetual thing that keeps happening around the world, right?
So I'm curious to know if you could share like some of the transformations you've seen in your clients, and you're working primarily with Muslims, right?
I'm working with Muslims and non-Muslims. So I
Okay.
do primarily work with, that is always like my target audience, but I get non-Muslims that are always reaching out for services as well.
So I can imagine that young Muslims like in their 20s and 30s are struggling these days with, their upbringing as Muslims versus the society they live in. Are you
Um,
helping people with that?
and one of the interesting things is there so many young people are now in, those that are in their late teens and early 20s are genuinely seriously struggling with gender identity, which is such a taboo thing to talk about within the Muslim community. And okay, maybe it's because it's talked about so much more. There's the freedom to explore, or there's this, the suppression that happens that creates the interest and the curiosity, right? But yeah, our young people are definitely struggling with so many more things that I think, any other generation has in the past, simply because everything's just out in the open, right? With technology, with the internet, you have access to everything.
And can you talk a little bit about how you talk to those young people who are struggling with gender identity?
The most important thing is to help them like understand, because I've not come across any young Muslim that I've worked with that is ready to denounce their faith. So they want to create a foundation for themselves. So that is the core, that is the core, aspect that I do create, these changes with them, or work towards creating these changes with them, is helping them connect with their faith from a place of no judgment, no criticism, and really feeling their faith from their heart, as opposed to their brain, where they're being, indoctrinated to believe that, this is something that they have to do or they have to believe. No, it has to come from your heart. Like as a revert specifically, whether you're born Muslim or we know we're all born Muslim, but whether you're born Muslim and raised Muslim, or whether you're born Muslim and raised in another faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that will bring us to the straight path. And then, so what I work towards doing is using the knowledge that I have, the resources that I have, to help them align themselves with the truth that they already have within them, so that they can navigate through the challenges that they're going to experience in their life, and recognize that whatever mistakes they make, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful.
Yeah, that's true. I would love to know more about like your revert story. And this may be going back to my theme of talking to people who've been through painful times and experiences, and how they turn that around. And you and I have talked about, both of our decisions to become Muslim. And I'd like to invite you to talk about yours. Like, where were you before you became Muslim, and how did accepting Islam into your life improve your life?
Wow. That'll be a longer conversation, but so from a very young age, I always questioned God, and I wanted to connect with God, and I questioned the people that were teaching me about God.
You were raised Catholic, right?
I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
I was born and raised Catholic. So I was always told, first of all, Estela, you're asking too many questions. Estela, just listen. Estela, just do what you're told. And that made things even more confusing and it also created this sense of rebelliousness in me. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out and search for the answer. So I went to different churches. For a while, I was practicing from the Methodist perspective, or from the Baptist perspective, just trying to understand the truth of God. I wanted to worship God. I loved Jesus, but whatever I was being taught about Jesus, to me, just didn't make sense. And that just took me on this long journey from about 17 until I embraced Islam at 24. I didn't turn my back on Christianity, but I just felt there was something just not right about what I was learning through Christianity. So I began to practice Buddhism, Hinduism. I got involved in different groups that were very much, into nature. And during that time, I got married in my first marriage. And I had my first daughter. My first daughter is from my first marriage. And when my daughter was born, it's when something changed in me, because as mothers, all of a sudden we go through our pregnancy, we go through labor, we go through delivery, and literally we transform, right? It's like one of the most transforming experiences for us as women. And I had this like determination of, I have to really get my life together, because I didn't feel like my life was together. I ended up getting a divorce from my first husband because I just didn't feel like we were going to be a good unit together. And from that point on, my goal was, to find the truth, to just continue to find the truth. I actually, when I divorced my first husband, I was 23. I hadn't gone to college yet. Here I was a single mom, and I wanted to be able to provide for my daughter. I didn't have any intentions of getting remarried. I just wanted to, be a well-functioning adult so that I could raise a well-functioning child.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking like, okay, I've been on this journey, of looking for what the truth is about God. I was born a Catholic. I'm now a mother. I went back to my faith as a Catholic. Like, I'm going to become the best Catholic that I could be. I'm going to really understand my religious foundation so that I can be knowledgeable and be able to give that off to my daughter. And I went to college, was getting educated. And that's when I met my husband, my current husband. I was divorced, a single mom, good Catholic, person, going to church every Sunday. And then I meet my husband, who's Muslim. And I'd never heard of Islam. Through this whole journey that I was studying Hinduism, Buddhism, other aspects of Christianity, I had never heard of Islam. And when I met him and he told me he was Muslim, I was like, what is that? What is Islam? I literally didn't know what it was. I was 23 years old and I didn't know what it was. And he's, was young. I was young still, even though I was a mom. So we were interested in each other. We started talking about faith. He knew plenty about my own faith as a Muslim. He knew a lot about Christianity. So I was learning from him. And in reading the Quran, in reading books, for me, it was like this light bulb went off in my head. I was literally so just in this state of euphoria, like, I know the truth. And I was so ecstatic, and I shared it with my family. My family thought, oh no, Estela's going through something else. She found another faith. Because as soon as something made sense to me, I also can't stay quiet about it. I have to share it with everybody that I care about. But what was just so, I guess, impactful for me was just really reading the Quran and understanding just the purpose of all the experiences of the prophets and the messengers, peace and blessings be upon them, and their job or their assignment was to give us the knowledge, right? And I'd never received it in that way. I'd never received it in the way that I received it when I read the Quran. It was like it was written specifically for me.
Wow.
SubhanAllah. That's how I felt. Like it was written specifically for me. And I just feel so grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me so much that he took me on this journey to experience life the way that I did prior to being a Muslim, so that I could have just this reverence in my faith and in my love for Allah and in my love for our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And that was one of the things that in the beginning was very challenging for me, because I did have this love for Jesus that I never thought I could have for another prophet. And when I even experienced that, that was in itself an amazing experience, that I could actually fall in love with our Prophet Muhammad, peace